Hello. Hi. Hi, Issa. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. It's a good day.
Yes,
Having
it
a good
is.
day. A lot to be grateful for. So, including you. Yay.
Yay.
Oh, thank you for
We're here.
being. Thank you for being. And um, yeah, so we're on Whirlwind this week, and uh, I'm so excited. And um, it has been a whirlwind,
I
for
agree.
sure. And yeah, a bit of a wild ride. And but I also um, I wrote a poem um, about my nephew, and the whirlwind came in to the poem. We were He'd asked for us to gather some sage for him on the way back
Mm.
over the mountains, and so for a ceremony for him. So we did that, and this is what I wrote. This funnel of air captures tumbleweeds, amber bones, and I am witnessing dust, ancient branches of sagebrush. Its gray-green softness strikes the land, and I wait to pull over to gather strands like hair, weaving, braiding, a tunnel of wind in my chest, whirlwind ocean telling me what to do next. Rest on the land if you can remember. I do this for you now, for my loved one, his coming of age. I watch him gaze after the hills he is walking toward me. His wisdom breaks open, the sun. He has seen himself for the first time. There are no answers, only this beautiful question that keeps asking, who are you? Who are you again? Discovered between the break of day and night, some small star to follow toward the deep interior to discover the next star of recovery, discovery, and wholeness. Recovery, discovery, and wholeness.
That was beautiful.
Thank you, sister.
What an honor.
Yeah, it's like, oh, thank you for asking me
Yeah.
to do that. And um, yeah, so that was for Nova for his, that I wrote that for him, and, just gathering that sage. And then in that landscape, there are all these whirlwinds that show up. And so, and they deliver things, like they deliver tumbleweeds, they deliver things, I don't know where they pick things up, but sometimes they'll go across like a field and there's just picking up all that dust, and they're just like, and in that dust, there's seeds and other things
Yeah.
that are being, but this is like a big change, a rite of passage. I thought of the whirlwind um, with the rite of passage because it's such a big change. You're going from childhood into adulthood, or from, you know, boyhood into manhood, or, girlhood into womanhood. And so I think that, this is a really positive change
Hmm.
um, that happens.
Right.
But I was curious about your thoughts about the whirlwind and change, and anything that came from the poem for you showed up.
I really liked how you said no answers. Because a lot of times, when we're in a whirlwind, we're seeking answers or
So true.
we're seeking something, and a lot of times it's there's no answers for that.
Yeah.
And it's how do we move through that whirlwind with flow, or with ease. And I'm in all kinds of whirlwinds. Everybody has different types of whirlwinds going on, and it's like, which one do I want to tap into?
All right, which one do I want to talk about today?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we are whirlwinds sometimes. And I liked what you said before, like, um, in our conversation, in our preparations about, how did you say it? You said something to the effect of the whirlwinds that we create, you
Oh
know,
yeah, we
what are the
create a lot of
whirlwinds?
whirlwinds
Mm,
because we're wanting answers, or we're seeking something from someone or something, and we're acting on this whirlwind of emotion, because it's not just one emotion, there's all sorts of emotions being put into play.
yeah.
Maybe that's that overwhelming feeling when you're in a whirlwind, I feel like, or fear or scaredness, whatever it is.
Or yeah, it's just like a need that's not being met,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
um, and so I like what you're saying about, like, of course, I like what you're saying. I don't know about that, but that the fear, it's
right,
like, not like that it's fear that kind of, that we're functioning in a way that's not conscious because of other, past historical things or
right, right.
fears. And the question is, what do we need? I'm curious about, well, how can we slow down and find out what we need when we're in a whirlwind? Or
Yeah, yeah. Or what comes up too is Nova is the name, correct?
yeah, yeah,
Okay, so going into manhood, you know,
hmm
sometimes we don't even want to go into womanhood or manhood.
or adulthood, yeah.
Yeah, and
I
it's
don't
like,
want to be an adult, is it? Yeah.
yeah.
hmm
So even those changes are those whirlwinds that come up, and we're not looking forward to stepping into it.
hmm
It's
Yeah.
like, how can we support others during those moments of whirlwinds?
Oh, yeah. And change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that helps us through the process of the flow during the whirlwind of
Mhm.
support. Um,
So
and
gathering support. Yeah.
yeah, I think even being like patient through that, because I am guilty. Like, I'll
Mhm.
rush through a whirlwind because
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to feel it. It's too overwhelming, or it's too scary, or it's too sad.
Yeah.
And our triggers come up during those whirlwinds, and so I try to rush through them. When you rush, you get back into the whirlwind again, and all it does is your whirlwind gets a lot bigger. So then being patient through that flow of things and the process of it. And you know all I could see is, like, a whirlwind, and you're just like, you're not going with it, like, being
Right.
crazy. You're just like floating with it, and like being observant and exploring, and making sure you hear, see, feel all of it, so that way you're able to just flow with it, because we can't get off the whirlwind, or else it's just going to get bigger and bigger.
Right. Yeah. And I think, I mean, this brings up for me is like the question of the eye of the storm, like, it's like, oh, the eye of the storm is the still point, right? Like, it's like the heartwood of a tree is not growing.
Right.
It's the still point. And so I think there's something about, like, I think about that still point, and I am not successful.
Me neither.
I mean, I think I think that's one of the questions is like, how can we, um, I mean, eventually I get there,
Right.
but I have to like be conscious of the fact that
Yeah.
either I'm creating a whirlwind or someone else is creating a whirlwind or there's some kind of chaos that's being created that's not helpful.
Right.
That's just continuing to create more chaos.
Right.
It's not because order is supposed to come from chaos. I mean, even
Yeah.
the cells, right? Like when a cell splits, it's so chaotic, but
Yeah.
that means it's growing,
Yeah.
right? So there's something about that. Of course, the whirlwind is like that cell. It's like it's changing things, it's creating growth. The pattern is different. It's interrupting a pattern. So the key is that growth that it's about growth, that it becomes
Yeah.
growth. So my curiosity is like, how do you get there? Like,
Right.
you know, how, what are some thoughts you have about like how can we get there and how do you get there?
Uh, so what was really inviting is the eye of the storm, the stillness. What got me was like the stillness. And I was like, ooh, how could I be in that stillness moment?
Mm,
Huh? And maybe it's even just inviting that knowledge of stillness. Like, oh, I want to be like, I want to be on standby, or I want to be in the middle to
yeah,
where I can like feel it all, but know that through this moment, it's going to pass.
yeah, yeah.
And
So
and it's yeah,
yeah,
and it's only going to take practice, right? Because sometimes we just feel too much, and that's okay. We're human.
yeah,
We're not always going to be in the eye of the storm. We're human. We're going to grow and learn and make mistakes and be dramatic and get chaotic and be in the mix of the whirlwind.
yeah.
We're gonna be screaming through it, all over the place. And yeah,
Yeah.
but I
Uh,
think too, like being in the moment of the chaos or the whirlwind, or because a whirlwind's not always gonna be chaotic,
mhm. Yeah,
but just being in that and making little mistakes here and there, we're gonna learn the next time we're in a whirlwind, oh, let's not make that mistake, or oh, let's not jump in too much, or oh, I remember feeling this type of energy, and that's not peaceful. I don't want that. We
right.
become aware
Yeah,
of what we don't like and what
yeah.
we do like, because sometimes we like to be in the mix of chaos.
Yeah, it's just like, and I think for those of us who have had a lot of chaos, it's like the familiar thing,
Yeah,
you
it's
know? So,
comfortable, or it. Yeah.
yeah. And so if we're raised in that, we're like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
awesome sauce. I can relax now. And really, it's like, guess what? You cannot
Yeah.
relax now, just so you know. And so I think I really like what you're saying in that also it's just like, what do I want to do differently?
Right.
How can I do something differently? And how can we kind of help each other out of that chaos? And and I think, forgiveness is something that is really important in that process. Like, how do we forgive ourselves? How do we forgive each other? Um, because we do that. We all do that at some point, either through withholding or through, engaging or through engaging too much or being in stuff that isn't ours to be in or, and because we love,
Yeah.
it's because of our love. And I think anything that is because of our love is like valid
Right.
and
Right.
valuable and a teacher. So my curiosity would be like, how can we allow that to be our teacher? What are some ways that you think we can learn from the whirlwind?
Right.
You know?
I think being observant,
Hmm.
maybe I don't know, like I'm kind of curious now on the next whirlwind. I have, like, could I sit down and journal about it?
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Or even like reflect, like, oh, well, this didn't go too well here,
Yeah. That
I
wasn't very effective.
yeah, I engaged too much here, and then how you said forgiveness, like
Mhm.
if there was people involved, asking for that forgiveness as well as yourself too. That's a big, big, big thing. Because sometimes we're just too stubborn to say, oh, I'm sorry. You know,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry could fix so much, but sometimes it's like, no, I am not saying sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
don't want to.
Yeah. Totally. It's like, why don't I just say I love you back to that person?
Yeah.
Like they're just telling me they love me or they're doing something sweet or
It
it's just like it takes a lot of energy to be like,
does.
like
Yeah.
righteous indignation, like, and righteous indignation is, yeah, that's not good. That's like a white supremacy model.
Well, and you know what, too,
No
is that
bueno. Bad news.
whenever you're raised like that, or when you're in that type of environment, it's just natural.
Yeah.
So when you really try to lead with love and follow with love, it takes a lot.
Yeah.
Even though that should be our natural instinct to do all of that, but
Right.
it's not. It's not. Because, we wouldn't have so much violence, or we wouldn't have so much people hurting each other mentally, emotionally, physically.
And I
Right.
think, what's that, love?
I said, even spiritually.
Yeah, exactly. And I love what you said because, the indignation, like we can heal that through connection, like that righteous indignation or the need to be right. And that we're taught that there's a right and a wrong and that there's someone who has to be right and someone who has to be wrong. And when really everybody's right, everybody knows what's right for themselves. Like
Yeah.
no one else knows what's right for me. Only I know, only you know what's right for you. No one else oh, no one else knows that, and even children, like they really do know what's best for them, I mean, of course, not in all
Yeah.
circumstances and cases, but, and I mean, they still have, but children know how they feel
Yeah.
and feelings, that's where the whirlwind is like a blessing. Like it tells us anger is there because it tells us something is wrong. We feel angry for a reason.
Right.
Sadness, disappointment, those things, those feelings are real and authentic. And the key is to not let them, trash the house. Like because a big whirlwind, you were talking earlier, is a tornado, right?
Yeah.
And that's like no fucking bueno, okay? Like
Right.
that's no bueno. Yeah, like that's like it just like lifts the house.
Yeah.
The whirlwind doesn't get to have control. So I think that's like how to keep the whirlwind
Mm,
small
yeah.
and not let it like lift and drop the hat, like
Right.
not let it just to be
Yeah.
destructo.
How do you
So
control that
yeah.
whirlwind? And not all whirlwinds are chaotic, or because then I think of Baby Gunner, and
Mhm.
he's like a ball of energy and a whirlwind, and sometimes it could be just craziness, funny, you know
Ah, oh yeah, he's a
and
delight.
and then it's like, even sometimes that's too much, but that's just his spirit and who he is. And even
Mm,
controlling learning, as children, you just like you said, children know what's best for them, but they're also learning too through that process of
yeah,
growing.
yeah.
So of course they're going to learn and make mistakes, and so during those moments of craziness or whatever through Baby Gunner, it's like, okay, how can you control your energies a little bit better? Or how could you not get so crazy? Um, so
Yeah.
just learning through that process of those whirlwinds and being observant and aware and reflective.
Yeah, and let's talk about what's happening for
Yeah.
you, you know, because that always helps me. Like, even my partner, sometimes when I'm just, this is something that she's done for me when I'm just like in that space of, if I'm having a really hard time with something or struggling or in this stubborn place, she'll just be like, honey, come back. Honey, come back, like, come back, and I'm like, oh, I was like, I was feeling so stubborn, and now you're being, it's like
Yeah.
that connection and that sweetness. I think there's something about just remembering that, and I also think of like all the different ways we regulate, like the breathing, like remembering, our breathing. And I understand in a lot of the research they're doing now, they're discovering that we weren't meant to regulate ourselves. We're meant to regulate each other and to help one another regulate. And so if we don't remember to do that, how can we remember to come back to that? And, to like hold someone's hand. Like
Yeah.
this morning I picked up a friend from the doctor, and, because he couldn't drive himself. And it's just like, I just held his hand for a minute, and we just looked at each other, and it was just this touch is so regulating. And, our friendships, our family members,
And then
call.
again, it goes back to the love that you have for the connection and the bond. And yeah,
So powerful.
it is.
Mhm. The other thing I think about is about like there is change. There's a change that's being created. Like when I see the whirlwinds, like in the fields or in the meadows or prairies, or, they're always picking things up.
Right.
you know? So I was thinking about the seeds. I was talking about that a little
Yeah.
bit earlier about, and so I just think about that whirlwind is there to plant seeds.
Yeah.
And so it's like lifting them and carrying them, and then it's carrying them across a hill, maybe, or across a mountain, but it's planting. It's like it's a form of transportation for the
Mhm.
natural world.
Right.
So I'm thinking about, where is the whirlwind transporting us? If we're in a whirlwind time in ourselves, or if someone we love and care about is in a whirlwind time, what is being asked of us, and what seeds, or, are needing to be attended, or what needs are needing to be attended,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, because every seed has a purpose within
Right.
it,
Right.
has a destiny.
Mm-hmm.
So, I believe there's something about the whirlwind serving the destiny of the seed, or of the change, or of the new beginning.
Yeah. So
It's just,
like your seed represents either your behaviors, your patterns
mm,
that you're wanting to change, and the emotions, and then where they're being planted, we're either helping others, helping ourselves, or we're putting harm to
mm,
others or ourselves if we don't tend to those correctly.
mm. Yeah, what am I tending? That's powerful.
Yeah. Because we cannot, I mean, we could be in a whirlwind and not tend to nothing, and
Yeah.
we're just gonna get picked back up in that whirlwind again. I feel like we're in a whirlwind always,
Mm,
and it's just, it gets a little bit bigger when we're having to step into change. And a lot of times change comes from the higher power, I believe, the higher power of our journey, because we have no idea
that's
when
so
change is
true.
coming. We have no idea. So then it's like, so this whirlwind gets a little bit bigger. And then we're learning through that process during that time. And you know, sometimes within our intuition, if we're connected very well with ourselves, we know when change needs to happen.
Mhm.
And then we step into that, like the we step into courage, I guess, and we kind of make that whirlwind a little bit bigger so that way we can move forward.
Yeah.
And maybe that's how we're, you know, if we really look at it and we're always in a whirlwind,
Mhm.
maybe we're in the eye of the storm when it's like calm and okay. And then we step out when the big change needs to happen or occur.
Mm.
And then we step back into the eye of the storm again because we learned some things along the way. And now we're going to try to put those in practice,
Oh God, that's brilliant.
you know?
Yeah, it's just like when you said that, I was just like, oh, I just felt like, now it's my own changes. Like when I'm
Yeah.
in the whirlwind, I can say, oh, I can take this feeling and then I can say, oh, what are the seeds? Look at the seeds and then say, oh, now I know what I want to change about the seeds I'm planting
Right.
and the behaviors that I'm doing. But then I can feel just the beauty of being able to say, oh, this is what I want to change about myself.
Yeah.
And it's moving to think, oh, I can change these things and I can have a better experience. And next time and be centered and balanced in that whirlwind. Be like, oh, like, we are that spirit of the whirlwind
Mhm.
because we need is some like, my wow, gee, we need so many changes. I mean, we have to, everything is at risk right now, the atmosphere of the earth and everything is so like tenuous and everything is changing so much. So we're in a gigantic whirlwind. The fires that are happening. I mean, so I think that maybe the whirlwind is something that we can call on to help us make the changes we need to make,
Right.
but in a positive way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she's so powerful and so beautiful. I mean, Yumni, she's powerful.
And I never realized, you know, speaking of the fires and stuff, I never realized during the moment it's tragic, during the moment it's sad, during the moment there's like a lot of grief and scared and anger and, you know, all this stuff because it's taken away. And, you know, not only land, but like people too. And
Lives.
people are affected and the land is affected. But what I've learned is that even though that fire, we may see it as a bad thing, it always brings more. It always brings more abundance, you know? And
New
just as that fire has a spirit, it's like even that's a whirlwind, you know, it goes through a whirlwind of energy.
Yeah.
And I like literally felt that. So my connection with fire is a little bit different. And my heart goes out to, you know, all the fires and the people and the community and everything. But, you know, there's going to be abundance coming forward
Yeah.
always.
And new life will come.
Yeah.
It's death, rebirth,
Mhm.
cycle, and I think to face the death and to cultivate the growth, the new birth, and to grieve and yeah, but yeah, that new life is in the ashes.
Yeah. And it through the while we were talking to, just because I'm going through grief, you know, I was like, there's whirlwinds of grief that just come on you. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, a rush of sadness just came on me. And then I like feel that sadness and I'm like, oh, you know, you're just heartbroken for that moment.
Mm,
and you sit through it, and sometimes you wish, things could be different.
yeah.
Um, but while you're sitting in it, there's always something more, there's always this blessings all over the place. And um yesterday I was talking about that. Like I said, there was a rush of sadness that came onto me. And then I realized that um the voices that I was hearing, it was like, oh, that's a blessing to
Mm,
hear. Yeah. And or I even chose to be in this space with these people to hear what they had to say. And that was a blessing. So that helped me reach forward in my grief of whirlwind during
yeah.
that moment. And it brought me to being present and being able to be thankful and have a gratitude heart to where I
Mm,
was in that moment. And it's not always going to be sad, or it's not always going to be anger, our triggers, our hurt, our pain, our overwhelming. You're able to walk through those moments of whirlwinds or whatever it is, that arise that we're not really wanting to come at that moment, but they do. They come, and we have to take care of them. We have to take care of those whirlwinds too.
internal whirlwinds. I love that because it's like to just see it as like we can be the still point, or those whirlwinds can land within us in different places of
Mhm.
grief, or that's such a powerful image of just a whirlwind, or even like a little whirlpool of grief, you
Right.
know. So I like that.
I thought
Mm.
there was a bug like chirping over here, but
Oh.
there isn't. It's just my rattles. I think through the vibration or whatever, it's like they're hitting together. It's like, what is that noise?
I know it's so. I mean, you guys have so many cicadas, right,
Yeah.
in the area where you. So I love the cicadas. Oh, they're so great. Yeah. So that's a their wings. And
Yeah.
actually, they have. It's not their wings. I was reading. I was doing some research about them, and it's actually inside of their bodies. It's this
Oh,
little.
wow.
Yeah, because I thought it was like the cricket, but
Mhm.
they actually have it looks almost like a little, these just like little gills inside of their body that just vibrate. I'm so
Oh,
fascinated.
wow.
Yeah. Again, air, wind.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting.
Amazing.
So do you have anything that you would like to just leave people with for the week? And
I guess just be present through the big whirlwinds.
Mhm.
Um, reflect.
Mm.
What can you do better at? Because we can always be better as humans. And I think even just tapping into
Mm.
um like love. How do
Yeah.
you lead or follow with that?
Mhm.
Because I think that brings gentleness to ourselves and to others, and we can see better in a different lens, hear better, and even feel.
Yeah.
We feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Issa. Thank you so much. I'm
You.
so
Yeah.
grateful for you. You're so amazing. I'm so inspired by you. And yeah, you just contribute so much inspiration to my world. And thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And then next week, we're going to be with Spirit Eye, Tawan. So we're super excited, and we'll see you
Excited.
next week. And please let us know about your thoughts and your experiences, like what kind of changes you're experiencing through looking at Whirlwind. And let us know in the comments below. Have a beautiful week.
Bye.
Bye.